hopefully be working. Welcome to anyone who's on Substack. Let's just see if I can make sure that that is. It doesn't seem to be working. God, it drives me mad when the technology goes wrong. There we go. Okay, yeah, it is working now, and there's 3 people there. So hello, everyone on Substack. Apologies, there was just a little bit of a technical difficulty, and I've got some echo. Okay, so where were we? We've just welcomed Daria to the show. We had some issues, so we've just gone through a little bit of our introductions, but we'll carry on from where we left on rather than starting again. So sorry about that, Daria. Okay, so we were just talking about your identification with the character of Daria from MTV, and that sort of persona, I think, really translates quite well to what you're doing online, both on YouTube and on Substack. So we'll definitely be getting into that. But I was wondering, as we were talking about before off mic, that notion of being online, across so many different platforms, and we can talk a little bit about the logistics of that. And I'm constantly navigating. You're always hearing about the idea of it's not healthy to be online so much, and it's killing all of our attentions, and we should be out in the real world, sort of, engaging with people. And I do believe that to a certain degree, but like the reality, and you've written about this, the reality of being online is just difficult to put to one side. It's a real privilege if you can do that. So I just wondered, how you feel about that sort of navigation right now.
You mean like navigating throughout different platforms, or
No, just I mean, like,
online?
but more generally, the sort of sense of that feeling of having to be online all the time and deal with the issues that kind of creates as a person in yourself, in a way.
Yeah, it's a hard balance for sure. Like, as somebody who is also
Oh, Daria, your mic is cut out. Sorry, go onto the phone. Oh, there we go. I think I can hear you now.
No, but apparently I cannot change it. It's probably really bad right now, is it?
It's not too bad. No, it's fine. I can try and I can hear you clearly, so that's the main thing, and we can try and fix it a little bit in post, so it should be okay.
Okay, sorry for that.
It's all right. Don't worry.
But can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you fine. You're clear, so that's good.
Okay, cool. No, it's just like somehow it wasn't allowing me to change it while recording or something like that.
Right,
so I cannot change for my other good microphone. So sorry, everyone.
It's all right. Don't worry.
Is a bit
We'll
off.
fix it later.
But anyway, I was saying about being online. So yeah,
yes.
I don't know where I got off, but basically main point was that it's a hard balance to do it, especially when it's becoming like a part of work where I have to like keep up with everything, and I have to sort of be aware of what's up to on TikTok, or what's up in the new trends, or like, and so on. So basically, yeah, it's sometimes very hard balance to be like aware of like my screen time and my online time versus being like, okay, I actually need to research this and I need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess like sometimes when I'm focusing on topics that are more film oriented, then I try to be offline more. And then when if it's like a topic about some online trends or online phenomena, then I try to be, yeah, then I research about this specific topic and then I feel less guilty.
Right. Do you feel, because you've been doing it quite a while now, especially the YouTube, which we'll come to, but do you feel like the internet, the sort of, I don't know, the mood or the atmosphere of being on, I know it's a grand thing, of being on the internet is kind of changed. I mean, see, obviously AI has come along, and I don't know whether it's more polemic. It feels like more polemic and more angry, clickbaity than it did 10 years ago. What's your sort of sense of where the internet is right now in terms of a space for creativity?
I think it's a hard question. Like, to be honest, it's very hard to say as an individual. I guess it's really, I
Mm,
think right now internet is really all about like bubble, and there's like a lot of different bubbles and a lot of different like, yeah, like uh, scenes where you can be. I guess like if you are in the film stuck, even like as it's called, right? People who write about films on
sure.
Substack, it can be very different from, I don't know, people who write about money on Substack.
Yeah.
And it's probably completely different from somebody who is doing fashion blogging on Instagram, let's say.
Yeah.
So I guess
Yeah.
it really depends on your bubble and your
Mm,
industry and like what you're trying to do with it.
yeah. And are you, I mean, you sort of span culture and film and media in a way, because I think some of your stuff is kind of media criticism in some, especially the YouTube stuff. But are, are you kind of accepting of the fact that you're trying to carve out a particular kind of niche and identity, and if you go outside of that, it's just becomes too diffuse and too diverse to really for people to know who you are.
Um, could you like? I don't understand the question.
Sorry. So, do you feel like there is an onus on you, or do you very particularly try and make sure your identity online and the subjects you write about are clear, so you do have that niche, rather than sort of look for subjects that are kind of wider, and bring those into your conversations?
I guess like the niche, my niche overall, like on a Substack, it's even more narrow, I would say, as I
Yeah,
try
yeah,
to hold like niche being about film and like mainly about films and then about culture, or like then adding up the layer of like, okay, how does cultural trends actually affect films, let's say, or what is the correlation there, and is there one?
mm,
But I mainly try to still write about films and how they affect like us and what's going on in the industry and so on.
yeah,
And I guess on the YouTube it's both. So I have topics which are then like similar, the same ones that I have on Substack, and I have more like cultural trends topic, like really cultural commentary, I would say, video essays.
yeah. I mean, with with my old man hat on, I think just keeping abreast of what's going on in film is enough. But like with celebrity culture and fashion and music, it's just how to keep in front of all of that stuff. And I don't know if you sometimes I feel like I have that FOMO. It's like there's a big thing kicking off about a film or even whatever it might be, and you just don't have the time or the bandwidth to do it. And it's like, oh my god, I'm missing this particular cultural moment. I don't know if you have that feeling.
I don't know. I mean, you cannot in the end focus on everything, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to choose. And the same with me. Like even when I want to cover some topics, I have to skip other topics that are happening right now. And especially right now, I feel like there's often so much happening like at
Yeah.
the same time. So like I don't know. I wasn't, for example, participating in the Odyssey conversation. Let's say
Yeah.
like. And every like a lot of people were, but I was doing like something else. And this is generally like what I'm trying to do actually. Like if there is like some very big topic going on, like everyone talking about like, I don't know, Euphoria or Odyssey
Mm.
or something like that, I'm actually trying to stay out of this topic usually, because I often, it's not like I don't feel like I have something to say. I just feel like everyone is talking about it and it gets saturated very
Yeah,
quickly,
yeah,
like
yeah,
often
yeah.
very quickly. So I just
Yeah.
try to keep on the topics that genuinely interest me and still relevant at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to come back to some of this later on because you mentioned the sort of the niche of film, and particularly on Substack. I want to do what we always do on this show, if I can call it a show, and that's talk about your origin story. Let's say as somebody who's a film lover, and we'll get to the question of whether you're a cinephile or a film lover and what's the difference between the two. Because I was just watching your video on cinephilia and film bros and what that means. Just this afternoon. So I definitely want to talk about that. But I just wondered, what was your origin story? Do you have a very specific sort of sense of your memory of childhood of becoming, interested in films? Do you remember the first time you went to the cinema, for example?
Yeah, actually, I was like, uh, when I was a child, I think we went with my parents for the first time, and was one of the Jurassic Park's films,
Okay.
like with dinosaurs. And I remember I was like really scared, and especially of all the sound effect because like all the dinosaurs are like running and
Right.
growling at you, and it was like a lot. But I was like, I remember it was like the whole scene, it was like the whole event, and I was like really excited, and I loved doing that since then. Yeah.
Right. So how old are you for that? Because like, Jurassic Park's got some scary moments in it, even the sequels.
Yeah, I guess I was like 6 or
Okay.
something.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes
I
these
don't
things tell
think
you.
like
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think people were caring so much, or maybe it was my parents. I don't know. Like I'm exposing my parental mistakes now, but maybe it was like my parents who didn't mind so much, or didn't like, like look too much
Yeah.
into like, oh, what's like the age limit. And I don't think back then like people would look as much. Or again, maybe it was just my parents, but my parents didn't like care so much about like the age, sort of like
Right.
I forgot how it's called, like, but the
Yeah.
age,
Yeah. Yeah.
upper age where you can start watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. It's funny, isn't it? I think I don't know. It seems a lot more overprotected now. I think I mean, especially at my age, that get away with murder going into stuff when I was a kid. But that's interesting, though. Maybe it does say something about your parents as much as anything else. But that's a great. Not to I think it's great that they took you to Jurassic Park. It's kind of like, come on, you're in the big girls club already.
Kind of.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
guess it was overall like the notion of my childhood that I watched way too many films when I
right.
wasn't like supposed to be watching them. Like, yeah.
So did you have that? Did you have quite early on that sort of sense of, oh yeah, can we watch a film? And then growing up, maybe as you get into adolescence, if you're anything like a lot of people I've spoken to on the show, it becomes almost kind of like a clandestine thing. What films can I watch that my parents don't know about or have defined me as a person? Did you have a lot of that?
Um, I don't know. I feel like I could say like there's specific films that define me like as a person,
Right.
but there was definitely a lot of films, as I said, like when I was early teens, maybe like 12 to 13, that I watched that I probably shouldn't have watched, and it was a lot of
Okay.
like horror because I
Right.
really liked horror, and a lot of like kids at school were watching it too, right? So it wasn't like only me problem, so to speak. so there was a scene people would watch this like super scary film, and it would be like almost like a dare scene, like, but did you
Sure.
watch it? And then like people would like test you if you actually watched it by
Right.
like
Okay.
asking you about some moments, and
Yeah.
then you would be like left out if you don't watch it. So I would watch a lot of these films, but it's actually like I think influenced my like mental health a lot. Like I couldn't sleep then after some
Oh
films
wow.
for a
Okay.
long time. Yeah, and then I think my parents started noticing this, that I'm watching this like films that I
Wow.
shouldn't be, and then they were like, "You should stop! Like, don't watch
Yeah.
them." But yeah, and so I think like I watched a lot of horror, and after this, actually, I had like a long break after maybe
Okay.
like even since couple of years only. I started watching some like lighter psychological horror films, but I was like for a long time thinking that I don't like horror because of that like early experience.
Mm.
um, and then after this, I really like when I was already in my teen years, I really was obsessed with like David Lynch, and also
Right.
really like Tim Burton films. So that was probably like my first actually like directors that I liked, and not like a separate film that I liked.
Okay. And was there a big difference between, I mean, did you have a sort of culture of going to the cinema as much as, say, watching at home on DVD? or whatever? You know what I mean? Was there a sort of a local cinema that you would go, or multiplex that you went
I
regularly
think
to?
like I would only go to the cinema for this like big premieres,
Okay.
like kind of like blockbuster stuff, right? Or like
Right,
new
right.
Harry Potter films or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah.
go to the films,
Mm,
and we would go like with other kids and stuff. But I think most of the time I just watched it at home and like already like online, like from
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't know whether, for example, in Ukraine, there's a lot of homegrown cinema, or is most of the cinema imported? You know, when you were growing up, in terms of what was available to watch.
Um, you mean like Ukrainian
Yeah,
produced
yeah, like
cinema?
like like with France and with Italy, they've got like a quota in the cinemas of this has to be this many French films. I don't know if there's anything like that in Ukraine, and you went and you watched, those kinds of homegrown films.
Yeah, I mean, no, not really. I guess, especially like, I feel like right now, Ukrainian cinema actually having a bit of a, at least in special cases like documentary feature
Sure.
films, right? Because of like ongoing full scale war. So there is actually a bit of a revival in a sense because there's
Mm.
like more directors making films about people and their
Yeah, yeah,
life
yeah, yeah, yeah.
under like war circumstances. But
Sure.
like when I was growing up, there was luckily no war, and like back then I don't think our cinema was that strong because like let's say Italian or French.
Right.
Um, so I don't think there was any quotas. It was I would just like choose already grown up online, and like there wasn't like such a thing that like, oh, I would only watch films on TV or DVD or something
Right, right.
like that.
And then
Yeah.
has your did you come to a point where you thought, oh, actually, I want film to be something more than just something I enjoy on the side? Did you think about like going to film school or becoming a filmmaker, or was it always just more about kind of watching and commentating?
I guess like I never actually like fully had this thought about like becoming a filmmaker, and
Okay.
I don't think like I do right now. Like I don't think that's the goal. Like like I wouldn't want to be a filmmaker. I think I actually enjoy more the cultural reviews part and actually writing and talking about films and analyzing it than like making it. Like I don't think I would see myself like making films at any point. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't think I actually ever had that. I always knew that I really liked film and really liked watching film, and I always liked like researching about films, and
Right.
like I would always had this like habit before even knew what it is. Like if I watch a film, I would always like research the director and then read about them online and
Okay.
read about their biography and how they were growing up and about their other films and how they did that stuff. So it was kind of almost like a default setting for me somehow that I would
Right.
do it.
Okay.
Like nobody told me to, but I would be like, oh wow,
No,
like I
that's
want to
interesting.
know like how this person did that
Yeah.
and why.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's not, it often just manifests itself in a kind of more formal way, doesn't it? But you're talking about a kind of autodidacticism, and nobody's sort of saying you should watch this film or that film. I mean, I guess I don't know. Did that come later when, in doing that research, kind of off your own back, you sort of realized that there's a sort of canon of films that's considered great, and you know what I mean, and then you get into the sort of that idea of what it means to be a cinephile and what kinds of films you are supposed to like, and because we can talk a little bit about that in some of the text that you've written and the videos you've made.
Oh, sorry again. What's the question?
So sorry, no, it's me. I tend to, this my interview technique is never to ask questions. That's why I just wanted to like have that call and response. It's my fault, don't worry. So yeah, that sort of sense of not having a kind of like formal education, but it seems obviously from your writing and your knowledge, it's morphed into a kind of formality, maybe by accident, because obviously about cinephilia and about the great directors and stuff like that. So I don't know, did that kind of like dawn on you on a particular on in a sense, or did you sort of read books that were about this is the history of film, these are the great films that people have sort of talked about over and over again?
I think it's just I don't know. Actually, I'm quite flattered right now that you like you have this impression, so to speak, of my writing, because I like, yes, I don't have any formal film education. Like I didn't go to film school and I didn't study film. Like I studied film, yeah, in my bedroom basically on my laptop by watching them and reading about them, like a Tarantino style, so to speak.
Right.
And yeah, I guess like I just like to do research in a sense. Like I mean, when
Right.
I'm writing about certain topic and when I make a video, also it's a lot happens off screen, like whatever's like in the video or in the text. It's
Sure.
just then sort of like the top of the iceberg, right? Like and like the amount of work, I mean, that goes into like actually writing it or actually producing um, a video, like recording it and then editing it, because the big part chunk of work is like below, and that work is me basically reading about it, like also into academic papers. Actually, like I often read
Wow.
somebody's like master work, or like
Okay.
like now for my next video and post, I actually read like the whole like master work on elevated horror from somebody who wrote it like a couple of years
Right.
ago,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and like or I read just like other academic papers or like journals and so on,
Mm.
and I try to then gather the picture, right, like of like what are people are saying, like what is already being said, and then trying to either like counteract it, right, or like support it, or say like something else, right, extra what I think. So I
Mm.
try to first like research a lot so that I can actually, yeah, form an opinion on that, because obviously I don't know it from like by default. Like I don't know what's going on, so I need to
Mm.
find out, I need to research, I need to figure out like, okay, what's already been said and what's already there before I can add something.
Yeah. I mean, this is such an interesting kind of conversation in the sense of I think that's an unusual viewpoint or process to have, where people generally, I would say, again, I'm stand to be corrected, they watch the films and then they just go online and say what they think about them. Do you know what I mean? So that's
Mm.
why as well I wanted to have the conversation, because it reminded me a little bit of the way I've tried to approach the some of the more academic stuff that I've done on Substack, which is that
Mhm.
I'm learning and I'm inviting you to kind of come along with me. Is that kind of how you see it? Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like, I don't know, it's, I guess it all depends on the personality. Like I mean maybe it's also my imposter syndrome in a sense. Like I'm like, okay, who am I to tell people like
Mm.
about stuff? Like I need to know first, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a bit of a sort of that stuff, but also like I think majority of it is just like my curiosity of
Mm.
to research and to read about stuff and to see what people are already saying, because like I feel like to get a feel, to give sort of like an essay or review of something that is happening right now in film, right, you need to actually read of what's happening, because otherwise it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
your
yeah.
opinion, right?
Yeah,
So
true, true.
yeah, and I try to
Yeah,
always like back it up by
yeah,
some like that something that I read or something that I noticed people say, and then sort of go from there, as I
yeah.
said.
No, I mean it ties in a little bit to what we started on, really, where it's so easy to just fall in with what everybody else is doing and what everybody else is saying. And I think it's just that's why the people I invite on here, I think generally I think is because there's something unique or idiosyncratic or different about the way that they're approaching their work. And on that, I mean, maybe we could sort of talk a little bit about the That Girl Daria kind of construction, let's say, if you feel that's what it is. And it seems to me that I've sort of obviously been watching the videos and doing some research, and then on your Instagram you talk a bit about fashion, and that's a bit more about yourself and what have you. And then your videos, obviously, you put yourself, you could do videos where it was just your voice and your voiceovers, but you're definitely front and center in the videos, and you have that like you have now. It's in the same space that you're having this conversation with me. So I just wondered how much thought went into, I want my online persona to kind of look this way, and I'm going to kind of construct that. And how much was it just like, no, this is how I started, and I'll just carry on doing it this way. What was the sort of thought process there?
I don't think actually that I had so like much of like imagining how it's gonna look like in a
Okay.
sense, because like with a YouTube especially, because YouTube like first, and
Right.
kind of I realized like, okay, I really like film and I really like fashion, so I will talk about costume design. Actually, that's like how my YouTube started. Like my first videos are more about costume design than about like trends. And then I also like slowly started talking also about online trends, mostly in fashion. And
Okay.
then I think I realized that it's a bit too like of a niche, and I have been doing it also already for like a year or so, like on the side of my job. And then I decided like, okay, actually I want to be more maybe broad in the sense of like not only talking about costume design, but talk about like films generally,
Mm,
like more like film analysis direction, and not only like costume design and fashion.
mm.
And then also about cultural not, because I mean it has like bigger audience, right? And maybe more people who would be interested to watch that instead of just like talking about like costumes in certain films.
Yeah.
So that's how it started with the YouTube, at least. And I mean it's still an ongoing process. I think it's always is. It's not like I completely changed the niche, but also like kind of I changed a bit of a direction
Yeah.
there. And with the Substack, maybe with more, I think a bit more intended, I think more a bit thought through in a sense, because there I try to do first what I did with the YouTube, as in writing just like the same like sort of stuff, because I write a lot for my video essay
Yeah.
and do a lot of research. And then I'm like, why don't I just reuse it sort of for a Substack? And that was the initial idea. But then I thought I will focus only on the film side of it,
Right.
instead of doing both culture and film.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's how then the Substack started, basically. Yeah.
Okay. You know, that's interesting. And in terms of the, again, just sort of to double click on that sort of persona kind of question again, and that notion, because everybody's chasing authenticity, right? But in some ways,
Mhm.
not authenticity again is a constructed thing. And like for myself, I've just realized that I'm never going to be able to kind of construct these very highly polished videos and do things succinctly. That's just not me really in a way. So the I've lent into that idea that I can speak for 2 hours nonstop about film. You know what I mean? And it's kind of long form, and that's just what it is. You either like that or you don't. Um, so I was just wondering again then on in terms of the construction of your scripts and then how you get things across. You have a kind of dry humor as we talked about, and there's a verbal and visual identity on the videos as well. Are you going for a specific audience with that? Is that just a kind of process that gradually you sort of matured into in terms of this is what the video essays I want them to look like?
Yeah, I think it's more the second, like that it's sort of like happens naturally. I don't think I'm necessarily acting as like another person
Right.
or like constructing the online.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, of course, like the video essays are very like scripted, as in like I
Sure.
think through before what I'm going to say, and I research right on the topic, and then I write it down, and then I like not read it, but I'm like close, like keeping myself close script. And but it's still like sort of me, right? And then when
Mm.
I'm editing it, I still also add certain like jokes or things that I would do like a day with my friends, let's say. So I would say it's like my personality, but just like the part of it that is related to the things that I like to talk about, like in that sphere, because it's not like blogging, right, where I'm
Yeah.
showing sort of all of my life, so to speak, which
Mm.
I also don't. But you know what I mean? Like it's not like all about me. It's more about like, okay,
Yeah.
me talking about this specific things. But
Yeah.
of course, it's like through my lens. So of course, me part is still strong there.
Yeah.
And I think with the Substack, it's similar because it's my voice, and like because I write it, and usually it's more maybe edited because I write it, so like I can edit it more than, let's say, on a video. I can a bit like say some stuff that I didn't write before, right? But on the Substack, I write it, but it's still like my voice, and I guess you can see it when you like read my essays that it's like the same person have written it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I think the voice is definitely there, and it does certainly translate across. And I like the other thing is because I'm long winded. I like to read sometimes someone who can encapsulate the idea quite succinctly, you
Mhm.
know. So I think that's what you do. That's what you do well. I think where there's quite a lot that you get through, and there's different concepts that you jump across, but the connecting tissue is there, and it's not overwrought. Like I say, which is what I accuse myself of a lot of the time. But I mean, just again on that sense of the visuality of it, you kind of have to find a way to engage the eyeballs. Let's put it that way. So, you know what I mean. So I don't know whether you do have a specific kind of audience in mind when you're presenting these videos and think to yourself, who is this? Who am I speaking to here with these films? You know.
Yeah, I guess like you asking about Substack
Yeah,
or
no, but YouTube at the moment.
okay. I guess it's like you have to do this. Like, I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people say it before starting like their content creation that you have to like understand sort of what person you talk to. And I
Mm.
think in a way, I also like heard it somewhere or read it somewhere that often it's basically like person like me, but with a similar sort of interest, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
somebody probably like in the age between 25 to 35 who is like has an urban lifestyle, who is probably well-educated person or like intellectual or who likes to read and who
Mm.
likes to spend time online, who likes to watch movies. So those are like kind of things that applied to me and those are like my interest. But I guess then I'm like, yeah, I can apply it to my target audience basically. And if you look at my data, this like tracks because that's like majority of my audience is between like 25 and 34 and like the interests are also mostly like fashion, books, reading, films. Um, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. And how do you deal with the question of the fact that YouTube, particularly Substack, less so, but still to a certain degree, is algorithm dependent. And we talked about that sort of sense of not necessarily following the crowd, but then on the same time, it can get disheartening and tiring just making work that nobody sees. And sometimes I feel like I'm caught in that balance where it's like, is anybody going to be interested in this subject? I'm just going to do something that probably might be popular, but actually I want to do this. How do you strike that balance of I want to do things that I'm passionate about, but if nobody's interested, who cares, kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a hard balance sometimes. I think I still am figuring it out myself, like in a sense, like on YouTube, because it's hard sometimes to guess if it's like because the algorithm depends there. It's not also algorithmic in the sense like Instagram or TikTok algorithmic, right? Where
Right.
the videos are being suggested to the user and then they can scroll.
Sure.
In YouTube, it's still like user chooses, right? Because your videos
Yeah.
are shown to the user and
Sure.
then people still can choose to watch you or not, right? And that's basically this hard balance because sometimes like I think sometimes it is the packaging, unfortunately. Like it's like your book is being judged by the cover, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And if your titles or the thumbnails on YouTube are not like doing their job well, like not getting the interest or curiosity of people, most even if the topic is really good or the video is really well done,
Mm.
um, then like people will not like click on it, right? And that's sometimes happens to my videos where I guess I'm just like not getting it sort of still, where I'm like, okay, it was an interesting topic, but
Mm.
the title in the video didn't get that curiosity. So that could be like one part of it. But a second part could be that just like even if your package is good, right? Even if you did a good job on packaging, which I think I often do right now,
Yeah.
but often then the topic might be just way too niche or like, yeah, not super interesting or somehow maybe, yeah, way too niche or that YouTube doesn't know like whom to suggest it. And then basically that's why it happens that video then dies off, so to speak, that nobody like watches it.
Right.
And then of course then yeah it is hard like to as you said, like to have this idea of like, okay, I'm putting my work into something and then nobody is like watching it. But I departed from this type of thinking because it's very taxing
Yeah.
to think this way, because like then you stay demotivated because you think like, oh, I will post something and nobody gonna watch it, right? It's like then you're not gonna post anything. It's like about learning, right? So now I'm looking at it from a perspective, okay, it's not like nobody gonna watch it, but I will learn something from this experience and then I will do better next time. And it is generally works, right? Because the more videos I put out, the more like data points I have, and then the more I can judge on like why certain videos performed well and others not, because then I can understand if it's like the topic, if it's like the cover, if it's like, yeah, what is this? So yeah.
And in terms of that balance with producing a script and doing the research, because obviously if you're reading academic papers and you're doing that level of research, you could go on for an hour or 2 hours on your video essays, right? But yours tend to be sort of between 10 minutes and 20, generally, right? And sort of dealing with the complexity and the depth that you want to go into. I mean, it's interesting because I was reading that there was, I can't remember when this was, it was a while ago now, but they were talking about how YouTube is basically, there are two almost completely different audiences. And one is kind of like short form, instantaneous hits. We'll swipe if it's not good in the first 5 seconds. But actually there's a big education focused audience online who will sit and watch things for a period of time. So I guess the question is, that thinking about that level of depth and how much you want to kind of try and elaborate the complexity and be sort of true to that. And yet at the same time, you've kind of got to be snappy and put in the bits of editing and stuff that keep people entertained. I guess I'm very much on the extreme end of it. I'm talking. If you don't want to listen, don't listen. You know what I mean? I haven't got the time for all the editing because it's 2 hours long. But I think it's really interesting when people sort of balance out the complexity and keep that in. But yeah, it is sort of snappy and clips along, as it were.
I think it's like to be honest, like I would even want to make like a longer videos, but it's often just like works out this way that it's like around like 12 to 15 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
Because like oftentimes I'm just like I'm reading a lot of stuff and then I'm like choosing what to add or not, right? Because often like you don't have to do, like you have to edit yourself out in a sense, because you don't have to add everything what you found, right? Because it could be not related, or it could be then, I don't know, not so interesting or whatever. And that's what I do. Like even when I record the video and then I edit it, I often notice, and even after doing all of that, I still like tend to repeat myself or say something in a different way, and then I just cut it out, and because like I don't want to repeat myself. And I think it's maybe my personality in a sense, or maybe it's like where I am sort of right now in my like video essay journey, where I would like to have it like a bit longer. Like videos generally go in maybe direction 20 minutes or so. But right now it's just like I just let it be how it is. Like it doesn't happen as in most of the time I do something and then it just ends up around 12 minutes or 15 minutes, like, and I'm like, oh, well, then I said everything I needed to say, right?
No, but it's nice because they do have a consistency and they do have a coherence, I think, within your style. And yeah, just last thing on the video essays, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Substack specifically. I'm trying to say that 3 times. I watched the Film Bro one, because that's the one that's pinned at the top. And I'm always interested in that because I think sometimes it's a lazy label. And actually, that's why I liked your video, because I thought, oh, actually, here's somebody who's taken the subject and not just gone all in of film bros, we hate them. Right. And I'm somebody who, if I was called a film bro, I'd be mortified, right? Because I like to think that I don't have that sort of sense of here are the filmmakers that you like, all the ones we can name, and my opinion is gospel. And if you don't agree with it, then you don't know anything about film, right? I like to think I'm the opposite of that. But I think it's interesting that it's problematic to conflate film broism, that sort of insufferable obsession style, with just being a cinephile and somebody who loves cinema and might love Taxi Driver or Quentin Tarantino. And it's interesting how you broke down the idea of a film bro. I think it's a slightly ironic take to it, but then you sort of unpacked or deconstructed the idea of why it's just problematic to label someone a film bro in that sense because they like certain things. So I mean, I guess the question is that sort of sense of taking something that everybody kind of recognizes as a trope and maybe spinning it around or giving it a new sense of understanding, perhaps. Is that something that you're kind of after?
I mean, that too. It's just I was just thinking it's like interesting to being asked something like a question on something that you did a year ago.
Yeah.
Like,
Sorry,
if I'd
yeah,
be
it is a
honest,
while ago. That, yeah.
yeah, like if I'd be honest, I have no idea what I have been talking in this video about anymore. Like,
Sorry,
so
we'll
it's
get to
like,
something up to date in a second. Don't worry.
so it's like great that you liked it. Like, but I guess like yeah, you put it well. Like I mean, I wouldn't even know what else to add. Like it is one of the essences of what I'm trying to do.
Mm.
And I guess like I always, like not always, I often in my essays also on Substack try to sort of make this point that it is also like in my anti-intellectualism, for example, like this
Yeah.
anti-intellectualism in Killing in the cinema. My post, like it was recent. I also did a video on that like last year, but then like a post is a bit different topic and a bit different take.
Yeah.
But there I'm also talking about that it's it could be also perceived as like anti-intellectual to judge people by their taste, right? And I guess right now it is also becoming a thing that taste is a privilege and having certain taste is also a privilege.
Mm.
But then it is like if you are considering yourself a critical thinker and if you want to critically think, it is like not a critic, like it is not in the scope of critically thinking to judge somebody because I don't know they watched the Spider-Man movie, right? It's
Mm.
like we're not teenagers anymore where we're gonna be like, oh ew, you're gonna watch this or whatever, because
Mm.
it's like of course there is different types of art and different types of movies and some of them are made for entertainment and others are not, and it's like one has to like understand it, and also like if somebody is watching it doesn't mean that they are like anti-intellectual or something else, right? So I
Mm.
guess it's like about having a range and about having generally acceptance, because critical thinking is about being able to understand other people's perspectives, understand other people's tastes, and even if they are who you think they are, if they watch certain type of movie, then it is also like part of critical thinking to understand, okay, like why are they doing it, why are they watching it, right? And
Yeah.
where are
Yeah.
they coming from, and not just like judging them and sort of like labeling them and casting them out sort of
Mm.
of your consciousness, because I guess a lot of people, as we said before about social media, there's like this whole like bubbles, right? And I guess this also exists a lot in generally society and like friends groups. And I'm part of this too. I guess like I have a bubble and then everyone sort of has the same opinion, right? And then
Yeah.
if somebody has a different opinion, then suddenly you feel like so triggered, or like you cannot take it or you cannot deal with it because their opinion is different. But it is like, and it is part
Mm.
of then of the world being so polarized because we cannot like understand people on the other side. So it is like we have to be able to build this bridge and common understanding of like why people think differently, and it doesn't have to be that they're stupid or uneducated or whatever. It can be that they have different opinion, and it can, the boss of it even can sometimes be true, right? Like yours and theirs. And I think that's also like common then to like many things, not only films, but
Mm.
like values and life views and so on and so forth. Yeah.
No, really well. Yeah, really well put. There's lots to sort of unpack there. But that sort of sense, I think that there is a kind of anti-intellectual grounding, but also an intellectual snobbery at the same time that are kind of clashing with each other. And I think, like for me, you know, if you call yourself a cinephile, you should be able to go into Spider-Man, and then you should be able to go into Tarkovsky. You know what I mean? And understand what the intentions of both of those pieces of cinema are, and also understand that there is a context, that there is art film and there is entertainment. You know,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
also the understanding that they are products of societies, do you know what I mean? And products of kind of different systems in a sense. So there's so many things that go around with that. But I really agree with you on the whole, you know, you don't like this that I like, and therefore I hate you kind of vibe is just just a disaster, really. And you know, that was what my last sort of session on ideology versus aesthetics kind of boiled down to. It's sort of like film watching becomes political or moral positioning of the critic, and I think I think sometimes people are doing that and they don't quite know that they're doing it so overtly. And probably, you know, I'm not absolving myself from doing that as well. It's really interesting. But that sort of sense of, you know, teaching students for 20 odd years, there's definitely that notion of the cinephile aesthetic, you know, and usually it is male students where they're kind of like, oh, I watched Bergman last night, so therefore, you know, that makes me the sort of master understander of psychological feelings in his oeuvre, as it were. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the other thing I was just going to ask about that, and this is in your essay, because I was going to ask about that directly. It's called "Is Intellectualism Killing in Indie Cinema?" And the point is about A24 as well, isn't it? That sort of sense of A24 kind of originally sets itself up as just making good films, and then now it becomes a kind of brand. And in a way, cinephilia has, you know, in some ways, I think, has fallen into that trap that any kind of fandom, whether it's Harry Potter fandom or Swifties, can be, which is just we're a tribe, and you cannot critique like A24 films or the thing that I like. And again, like you say, I think that's not true cinephilia, I don't think.
I mean, I guess there's I guess there's several things going on there. As in, on the one side, I also like a lot of like A24 films, and I enjoy them and watch them like with great pleasure. And I think they cover a lot of interesting societal problems that we have, right? So it's not like I'm not saying that we should like cancel into A24, and we shouldn't. But
Really,
at the same time, of course,
never again.
yeah. But at the same time, of course, I guess it was always the case in film industry, and I think just like sort of bringing awareness about that, like that A24 is like no different. That well, they are still like a production company who tries to make money, right?
Yeah, of
And
course.
like a lot of their techniques and a lot of their movie making is about that, and like it was always about that in the film industry, unfortunately, especially if the films are getting like a big audience, right, or a lot of like attention. But what they did really well is that they positioned themselves as a brand, right, and then they started like attracting this sort of like, because they wanted to have this position as a brand somewhere between like a mainstream audience and somebody who will call themselves cinephile, right? And then they make movies somewhere in between so that they can still show movies not only like in a super small cinema for like 10 people, right? Like it's like super art housey movies are being shown,
Sure.
but it's still shown like on the big screens, on the like big cinema theaters. So they really tried hard to like combine those two things, and I guess they really did a good job, especially with the marketing, because then they created this like identity, right, where people then identify themselves with A24 films, and then that's considered like better, so to speak, as I don't know, Marvel films or whatever. So yeah, I guess like what I'm usually writing about is that it's like the awareness, like to bring awareness to that fact that like yes, they are also still making films that are for money. And if initially maybe they started as more of an indie filmmaker, right, and they have also started to kick off the careers of some great directors like Ari Aster or Robert Eggers. But right now, I guess they also kind of becoming what they sort of fought against, because they becoming bigger. They already, I guess, valued at 3 billion or something. So they're huge at this point, and they are making all kind of different movies. And it's also clear that the direction changed also throughout the years, that they're trying to get to this even bigger amount, or making it movies more for money. So I guess their identity is also going to change of their fandom as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. But I mean, it just goes back to the point we were sort of dancing around earlier on, where, you know, just that ability for both the person who is watching the film or reviewing the film, writing about a film, approaching the film as a film, should be the first thing, should be the primary kind of approach, right? And then secondly, if you're reading a piece of criticism or speaking to somebody about a film, there should be a kind of good faith, you know, feeling that that person is just saying that they like the film because they like the film, or they have reasons for liking the film. There's not an agenda like you're an A24 person, or if you don't like this person, you know, then, or if you don't like this film, then somehow you don't like all films and all people associated with that kind of idea for the rest of time. Do you know what I mean? I think that that's where the polemics become really, really problematic. Just before we actually go on to a couple of other of your articles, which you could just talk about quickly. I just wondered. I mean, I think you mentioned a little bit of it earlier on, but that shift over from YouTube to Substack, was that a sense? Because I mean, I've talked to other people who've made that jump, and I think some of it is to do with actually wanting to write as much as make videos, and then the other part is there's maybe a little bit more interaction with audiences. You can kind of build an audience more visibly, and then the other thing is, you know, you can start to build maybe some economic value on Substack. I mean, are those three things, did they sort of factor into your thinking, or were there more things you wanted to do with Substack?
Yeah, I guess like you kind of described it, because I wanted to have like multiple sort of outlets,
Yeah.
not only like dependent on one platform, right? Because I always say to diversify. And I right now I'm like not doing anything with the short form platforms, as in like I'm not like on like Instagram or TikTok, as in like I have Instagram profile, but I'm not like actively posting there, right? I'm just like
Right.
announcing some videos and stuff. But I also generally wanted to like diversify, so that was the first. And second, I wanted to write more, because I also write for some journals, or I'm trying to, at least. I mean, I did write already for some journals, and I'm trying to write for more journals. So still in the process of that. And for this, I think Substack is a really great platform, because you can like build your own audience. You can also eventually monetize it. And I think it's also, you get like immediate feedback, sort of, because like when I write an article, if I would post it somewhere, or if I would publish it somewhere in the journal, let's say, right, you don't actually get so much feedback there, right? I mean, the only feedback you get is sort of from the editor. Will they post you or not? And if they posted you, like, great, you're published. Like,
Right.
and
Thanks. Yeah, move
on
on.
Substack, like, you can get like all of these comments and people actually posting their opinions. And I love that part. Like, I love the interaction, and it's also like a community. Like, when I went into this, I didn't know about it, but now I also appreciate that part, because there is I have like my writer friends, if I can say, like the Substack friends, whatever, where yeah, you can just like ask people about their experience, like about, oh, like you applied to the festival, how did that go, or just
Sure.
talk about writing, or like collaborate. Like, I collaborated with several publications, like several Substackers, which was also really fun. So I guess this like community effect of like just talking about films, talking about industry with people who also often work in the industry, which is also really cool and gives me also some insights that I also like really, really value. But that came already after I started posting and writing. But initially I just want to write because I would like to, to develop sort of in that direction of like writing and publishing to the journals, and be like sort of a legitimate, so to speak, film critic. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I mean, it's interesting as well, because it's kind of like going from, for me, going from academia, and I'm still teaching on the side, you know, to earn sort of immediate money, let's say, but sort of building this up and doing what you're doing in terms of sort of freelance work as well. And it's interesting sort of trying to carve that out and seeing what works and what doesn't. But yeah, the sort of having that, being within the niche, but having a kind of identity in the niche is kind of key for that. And I think your voice comes across, you like, particularly in the latest article that you wrote, Lobotomy Chic and the Rise of Non-Femininity in Film, right? Fantastic. You know what I mean? What a great title. But then I was sold as well when I was reading it, when you mentioned the Stepford Wives, because that's one of my favorite films of all time. I kind of have taught that, you know, to students, you know, because of the feminist angle very much so, and how it really is a sort of representation of kind of
You
second
like the
wave 5
70s
version.
one?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Or
the modern one,
2005?
not the Nicole Kidman one. No,
Okay.
the Nicole Kidman one actually reverses and blames it all back on women. Am I wrong about that? It's
Yeah, it's a
crazy.
bit like I don't acknowledge that one.
Yeah. No. I'm talking about the real one, right? With Catherine Ross in it. But yeah, tell me a little bit about that idea, because again, that's something that I would not even remotely recognize at my age and gender, but that being a sort of trend that you see, or you've seen.
Oh, I guess like it's really hard to describe because it's like I would have to describe basically the whole
Right.
like
Okay.
process of like my like video writing, because especially with that idea it appeared like really long ago, because I just
Okay.
saw somebody posting about this like on Instagram. I saw like a video of somebody, like a creator, talking about lobotomy cheek and this like numbers in and so on. And then they had an idea of like writing an article about that and like making it like a YouTube video mostly,
Mm.
because I didn't like sort of see how I could talk about it and film and so on. And then it sort of stayed with me for a while, and I wrote some stuff, but then I wanted to publish it in like journal and it didn't go well. And then eventually I was like, okay, I'm doing this video now. So I did a video, and video is more about the trend itself,
Right.
and about like lobotomy and history of the operation
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And then for the subset, because I am trying to stay on the film topic, right? Then I started my research. I was like, okay, how does it actually go into the that? And then before that, I did a video on incel horror, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
Stepford Wives also came up, because I
Yeah.
thought like I mean, I made a connection there, and I was like, oh, it's actually made total sense. But then I also thought like about lobotomy, and that how they are kind of like lobotomized with
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
replaced by these robots, right?
Yeah.
Or like that's what this lobotomy operation was doing
Mm.
initially, like, which is terrible,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and then basically that sort of came together. So it's sometimes it's really this like process of like multi
Mm.
layered, and it like in this time it took literally months until
To
it
get
sort
to
of
the
like
point.
formed
Yeah.
in my head, because I was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
something else and the idea was like in my
Yeah.
backlog, so to speak. So that's kind of how it came to be, because that's something people are talking about.
Mm.
And then yeah, and then I did my research, and then I did that, and then
Mm.
it sort of all ended like together. Yeah.
But it's really, I mean, the history of sort of disassociation as resistance from women, basically, who are, oppressed by whether it's individually or kind of like the capitalist patriarchal system, whatever. Right. But that notion now that like modes of resistance come through this very strange embodied reaction is so interesting to me, and kind of depressing at the same, you know what I mean? That's seen as a mode of kind of resistance because things are sort of so bad. And you talk about sort of, women going into kind of being trad wives or girl bosses, and these sort of modes of resistance to the modern moment, as it were. But kind of lobotomy chic is quite extreme, and I suppose it's related as well to kind of like plastic surgery and other forms of ways of taking ownership, I guess, over a sense of self.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's always with this kind of trends. That's why like I like talking about this, because usually people like perceive it, oh, it's just like an online trend, like whatever, it doesn't have to do anything with like my real life. But it's usually like not the case, right? And
Yeah.
both like social media trends, in that sense, they're sort of similar to the movies, because like when you generally look at the landscape of a like culture and
Mm.
what are going on right now, so to speak, in culture, right? Then usually this appears first in social media or among celebrities and so on, and then it wanders towards film, let's say. It is often the case, and then it's somehow represented in films, just because
Mm.
films also needs time to be
Yeah,
produced,
it's a couple
right?
of years later it comes out. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I guess it sort of mirrors it through.
Yeah.
And it's always like a complex scene. It doesn't just happen like, oh, because of this, right? Like, oh, we are like now doing Botox
Mm.
because nobody wants to be looking old or like whatever. It's all like very complex issue, right? And it's
Mm.
all like interconnected in so many sense. So it's like, to answer the question, like why lobotomy chic is like now popular, it's like it's such a multi-faceted like thing, right? It's like on one side it could be that it could be like a protest against this like patriarchal representation of women, where women are constantly like smiling and nice, right? And just like, yeah, never, even if they are discriminated, they're still smiling and nice, sort of this like 50s housewife scene. Despite that they were on drugs and lobotomized, but anyway. On the other side, it could be also just everyone is dissociating, because it is like a lot to take in, right? And I feel like a lot of people, like myself included, are overwhelmed by a lot of events that are happening right now in the world, and especially when it comes to like women rights, like a lot of countries are going sort of backwards in that sense. So it's like, how would you not be dissociated in a sense if it's like it is a lot? But of course it is like then the question, like, why are we dissociating, and why are we not like doing something or talking about it or being more proactive and so on? And that's kind of like where what I like to think about, and or in this specific issue, right, where I sort of why I wrote about it, because I noticed all of that, and then that's how this post or video came to be.
I mean, I guess all of these are part of a diagnosis of the modern condition, really. I mean, even you talked about the incel horrors, but even stuff like the manosphere or other areas where there are particular reactions to culture that everybody's looking at, going, "Well, why is that happening? Why is that happening?" And I think, and whether it's like in the stuff that I have to deal with a lot, which is sort of just young people and their mental health. These are all kind of reactions, aren't they, to what in some ways I think is this that you capture in that article about work, which is the future, and people just don't have that cognitive map, that sense of what the future is going to look like, in the same way that perhaps our parents did, where it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not married, I don't have any kids, and some of that decision making is just because I can't see what that's going to look like in the future, and what's the point in sort of trying kind of building that when everything is so uncertain. So I think it's interesting how your piece is sort of and related to film as well, kind of really diagnose in that way. What time are we at now? Oh, we're just about an hour. Are you okay for time? I've just got a couple more things to ask film wise. Sorry, go ahead.
If it's fine for you, I mean, if it's like not too long.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. Yeah, because I just want to ask you about a couple more of your pieces, and then I want to do the 10 questions on cinematic identity at the end, which is just like a quick fire fun thing.
Okay.
But just really quickly on David Lynch redefining female representation. I mean, that's one of your most popular pieces, I think, and I really like the fact that you tackle that thorny issue of separating the misogyny in a film and characters who are misogynistic in a film, and the filmmaker or the film itself being misogynistic, because this is something that I don't know whether I get frustrated by that, people not being able to wrap their head around that distinction for some reason, and you sort of take that on really directly.
I mean, what's the question?
Jeff, sorry, no, just I mean, the piece itself, is that something that you see kind of aligned very much with David Lynch? Because I think that, I mean, the great thing about David Lynch, as you point out, is he's got these very rounded characters, and they're empowered, but not in straightforward ways. And was that the thing that brought you to the and you said before that you liked David Lynch?
I guess like many people would disagree with me, because, or like some people also disagreed with me, even like an article or video I made, because they still like don't see how like both things can be true in a sense. Like how, like, why would you still show violence against women in your film if you don't want it to appear like misogynistic, right? Or like, why does it has to happen? But I also sometimes feel like people take things maybe too literally often, or you also have to see like also the filmmaker himself. And when I like before I did this video, I listened to several podcasts, and I read like interviews with people who worked with him. He's like partners and like cinematographers that worked with him, like a lot. People actually working with him were women, like professionally. who were not also romantically involved with him.
Right.
And there was never like sort of an issue with him and his personality being in any sense like sexist or misogynistic and whatsoever. And it's like often not the case with the filmmakers, like male filmmakers. There's a lot of cases, right, where even like Hitchcock, let's say, he is like was known for being very misogynistic actually, and weird to women on set and so on. And there's a lot of like other examples with this. So for example, like I took a that side that the feedback, so to speak, direct feedback of people working with him was positive. And then again, I did like his cinematography, and as a woman I could relate to a lot of this experience that he was showing, like through his female characters. Therefore like I saw it this way, or like that's like my opinion, right? So and of course you can still disagree with it. It's always this scene, right? It doesn't have to be this or that, like both things can be true. But then like from my perspective, it is the case that he was trying to show sort of the reality that women actually have to go through, and not just like show it for, or like violence for like sake of violence, for showing violence.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's more layers to that difficulty as well, isn't there? Because again, that sort of sense of, if it is in cinema, there's always that slippery slope where people can say, or people do say, that you can't make something that you don't have a direct experience of. So it's like can a black filmmaker make a story about a white character, or vice versa, or a woman and then eventually you get to the point where nobody can make a film only about themselves. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like you can't say anything about anything or anybody. But on the other hand, I think it's important distinction that you make, and I guess that comes in the critical reading of the form and the intention of the film, I guess, in that sense, and whether it is attempting to create a sense of experience that is open enough in its representation for you to register, whether you're a man or a woman, with some empathy, or with something, what's going on with the situation, or with the character, rather than it being used as a kind of spectacle of violence that is almost sort of propagandistic in a sense. And it's funny, isn't it? Because there's so many films that are just, if we just take violence, the idea of violence being the spectacle that we watch. I mean, there's so many films that are just based on that thing. So it's really it's an interesting piece. And I mean, I was just wondering, when you write about other filmmakers, you talk about Lynch there, but Bergman, Coppola, and other people you've written about, that sort of sense of representation more generally, we all bring our sort of selves to the party when we're doing criticism. I'm just wondering, how much do you kind of have in that in your mind, where it's kind of like, okay, so how am I reacting to this? Is it because I'm a woman, or how much of that is, or my experiences is coming to my criticism, and or do you try to sort of maintain a sort of sense of, okay, so what is this film's intention kind of aesthetically? What is it doing?
I mean, I guess both, because I don't like, even if I'm trying to think of like, okay, what this film is representing, right? I'm still looking at it at the lens of like being a woman, right? And maybe like a man person, or like different person with different experiences, or like person of color would look at it also differently than
Of course,
me,
yeah.
right? So I guess it's always like sort of comes with a projection in a sense, like through a lens of something. And understanding of it comes with a lens. So of course, like I cannot separate, I guess, that like of me like being like having experience of living as a woman and watching a film that is about experience of being a woman, right?
Can't disassociate your embodiment entirely,
Yeah, exactly. so I guess it's like it always interconnected, in my opinion, and that's why it's like generally representation matters, right? And that's why we keep talking about this all the time, because we cannot just always perceive everything. Everyone cannot always perceive everything as a white male person.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just very quickly, the last film I want to talk about is The Invite, because I really enjoyed The Invite. I thought it's one of my favorites of this year, and I was interested in your sort of. I really like the way that you took on some of the criticisms, particularly of the early portions of the film, which seemed completely intentional to me. You called it sort of caffeinated first half, which it's exactly what it was, but deliberately so. But I was like one of the things you talked about is the ambiguity at the end, and again, I like that about the film. Is that kind of a criteria that you thought to yourself, yeah, this film is actually working in the right way because that's the kind of ending it needed to have? Or what were your sort of your general feelings about that film and why you sort of wanted to write about it?
I guess several reasons. Like one is that like I saw that a lot of people were like talking about it also
Sure.
online, but not like to the degree that like Odyssey discussion was happening.
Yeah,
Like
of course.
so that was like sort of falling into the category where I felt like, okay, I want to talk about it. And then it is also generally, yeah, like made an effect on me. That's why I usually like don't write about something, right, that didn't like impress me or didn't make me
Sure.
feel certain way, right? Because then, yeah, I'm not impressed. So why would I do that? So I guess that also like just produced like a big effect on me, and it made me think in many different ways, like about my own romantic relationship and about
Mm,
like generally others people romantic relationships or my parents relationships, right, where you could see a lot of these traits of like why marriages don't work out, why romantic relationships don't work out, because people often don't talk to each other, don't communicate with each other, or keep this like resentment instead of like communicating it. And I guess it was like done really interestingly, and it was done really well, like in this like it was only one room and all attention was on their words and on dialogue, on the people, right, on characters and on their emotions and relationship to each other, right. And there was this like counterpoints of like one above upstairs like couple and downstairs couple. And I
right.
guess at first you might think that upstairs couple is being a bit like, oh yeah, well, they're better. But then like you understand that by the end of the film, well, they also have their own like issues or their own things. um and yeah, so it was like, I guess it was just like really interesting where you kind of go with a notion like, oh, okay, this is the couple, and okay, they're better, and then like, and then this couple think that they're better, and like you can see this like sort of their ping pong of
Yeah.
emotions and impressions on one another. And yeah, like the actors play was also really great. I guess it was really well done. It was like also funny, like watching it in cinema. Like I really recommend for anyone who still didn't watch it to go to the cinema, because it was like really great for me to watch in the cinema, because you like laugh with everyone,
Yeah.
like becoming more funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess like I enjoyed like multiple aspects of it.
Yeah.
And I watched it even twice, like before writing the review, because first I was just like enjoying it and I really liked it, and I was like, oh, I want to write about it. So went to
Yeah.
watch it again, like with more careful detail,
Right.
um, like before I have written about all of this other like details. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. So that's amazing, Daria. Thanks so much for taking all of this time. So we're going to finish off
Yeah.
with 10 questions on cinematic identity. I don't know if you've seen this before. So I just ask a question and you can give, right. So you just give I'll give a very straightforward question. Then you can give me a quick answer, but with a caveat. You can tell me why you say that. And it's just
Okay.
about how you watch films, really. Okay. So
Okay.
it's not a test or anything. So, okay, for question one, what's your favorite cinema in the world?
Oh my gosh.
Like the place to go to? Have you got a favorite, actual cinema that you go to regularly?
Yeah, like a Berlin cinema, like Passage.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like the International in Berlin. I
Ah,
always go there when it's the film festival is on.
okay, okay.
Okay, so question two: watching alone or watching with others?
Watching with others.
Okay. Question three: front row or back row?
Front.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. You're one of the few who go to the front rather than the back. Is it the immersion that does it for you, or?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I often had bad experiences and being in the
Oh,
back,
okay.
and then I'm not so tall, and then there's
Right.
often like a lot of
Okay.
German guys are very tall, so I always like unlucky, and there's some tall guy sitting in front of me, and then I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. Tall, bald guys in front of you, I can imagine, in Germany. Um, Okay, question 4. Which filmmaker would you always see their films in the theater? Like you're always making a point at that filmmaker, I'll always go.
I think it was Eggers.
Okay,
I mean,
right. So
Nolan also when he
okay,
does something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Did you like the last one, the last Eggers one, Nosferatu?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah, yeah.
have written about it and I made a video about
Oh
it.
yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah. You did. Yeah, no, God, I
yeah.
haven't watched. I'm not. I'm okay with Eggers, but
Mm.
yeah, I understand. Like he's, a lot of people like him. Um, okay, question 5. An actor you'll watch in anything.
Oh my gosh. Pattinson because he's in a lot of films.
Right. Okay. He's on in all Eggers films.
I mean, he has range also. He has range.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And he's actually, I think he's got on a good run at the moment in the last few years.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. He
Um,
is.
which actor, again, actor or actress, do you not quite get? That somebody that everybody likes them, but you're like, don't get it.
I think like Emma Stone actually.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is there any reason for that, or is it just an intuition, just a feeling?
Yeah, I guess just a silly.
Right. Okay. Do you want to know who
Nice
the
and
most?
personal, but
Right. Do you want to know what the most popular answer is by far in that
yeah.
question? Timothy Chalamet.
Oh.
Yeah, that's like number one answer for that one.
Yeah, I mean, if probably because you said actress, so I went for female, but
Right. Okay. Yeah. Could be either.
yeah.
Could be either. Okay. Question 7. Do you walk out or suffer through to the bitter end?
Oh, that's a hard one. I guess it's like 50-50.
Okay.
It depends which mood I am. I have walked out before.
Yeah.
And I also have suffered before. So,
Right. Yeah. No, it's changed for me as I've gotten older. You know what I mean? I will walk out now at the drop of a hat, especially if I haven't had to pay for the ticket. You know what I mean? If the
Yeah,
film's crap.
yeah.
Okay. Question 8. What film first made you feel seen?
Oof. Let's see. Amelie.
Oh, right. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
That's a great choice. Yeah, I haven't watched that in years, I have to say. Have you watched it recently? Does it still stand up?
What do you mean?
I mean, have you watched it recently? Does it still as good as it ever was for you?
No, actually, I haven't watched it recently. I watched it a couple of times, but when I
Right.
watched it for the first time, I was like a teenager, and it definitely
Yeah.
was like, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, question 9. A film you'd consider a relationship deal breaker.
In what sense?
Okay, so you can take this in one of two ways usually. Either a film that you love that somebody else has to love, otherwise, no, I'm not. There's a red flag. Or a film that somebody else likes that you're like, oh my God, I can't see them if they like that film. Either way.
I have to be careful. My boyfriend is watching. So
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, you have to
No.
don't drop him in it.
I would say like American Psycho, maybe. Like if they like, I like it. I like the film a lot,
Yeah.
and if they
Yeah.
don't like it, I would be like, you didn't understand.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a tricky answer actually, because you could kind of turn around and go, yeah, that's not for me, because it's quite it's a full-on movie, of course. And it's one that I think, I mean, again, you were talking about female directors, it's completely misinterpreted half the time, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So final question, and this is sort of specific to the person. Who would you like to sit in a room for an hour with and just talk cinema?
Oh God.
Beyond
Probably it's David Lynch, but
right. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, do I have to say a person that is alive?
No, that's fine. Maybe you can meet them in the transcendence of the universe at some point.
Yes, exactly. In unconsciousness and like the ocean of unconsciousness.
Indeed, where we're all going to end up, at some point. Listen, Daria, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate the time. It's been great, and look forward to seeing you continue and following your work on Substack.
Thank you so much for having me. It's like also my first experience doing something like this, so yeah, I was really excited for that. So thank you for inviting.
No problem. Well, I hope it wasn't too painful.
No, it was fun. Thank you.